Whoa! We're back.
You're back.
I'm mad.
What number
You're
are we?
black.
What?
No, let's leave the weapon. We're not talking about that tonight.
No. We will be mentioning lethal weapons, but not that
Yeah.
lethal weapon. We'll be mentioning
So,
knives and stabbing weapons.
yeah, stabbing, finger poke of doom, or fingwonga, as I call it from Futurama. So, episode 10, we're back. We're on a bit of a sci-fi kick, getting into some classic cool films. What are we talking about tonight, Mark?
We are talking about E2, or Terminator 2 Judgment Day.
Are you going to judge me? Are you going to judge me for my bad habits and lifestyle choices, Mark?
On this day, I will judge you.
I've bought too many toys. I have to get fed.
Yeah, and it's T2. It's the sequel to The Terminator. Some would say it's one of the greatest sequels of all time. I think
Yeah, I'd agree.
we'd probably find ourselves in agreement on that. It's an absolute treat of a movie, and we're going to deep dive into it today.
Yeah, there's very few films that can eclipse the original in a sequel or touch it in any way if it's something that's a great film to start with, because most of the time sequels are garbage films. But somehow it's one of those films that defies the odds, and kind of like Aliens, Terminator 2, it builds on the ideas that came before it and expands upon everything in it, and just it's kind of like a redux, it takes what's set up in the previous things and then just makes it this amazing thing that directors and writers probably were envisioning in the first time around.
Yeah, it goes bigger, better, badder. It ticks all the boxes, and just like RoboCop that we spoke about last time, it's
Yeah,
one of those movies where you think you might just be getting an action kind of adventure thriller, which is what you do get, but you're also getting a movie with an awful lot of depth and
yeah, you're getting
just
pop culture
detail.
commentary, 80s business ethics, all kinds of stuff going on, as well as the science fiction elements.
There's a lot of good stuff in this movie like that we can look at as well. It's one of those. It's a rich movie, and I'm looking forward to actually kind of getting into it and yakking about it.
It kind of keeps giving back to you, because I don't remember what age when I first saw this, but I was definitely a kid. I mean, maybe as a teenager, but I mean mentally, as a kid. So all the cool action elements, there's that Arnie guy I know from 80s cinema, and all the cool action stuff was appeals to me. Plus I like robots and science fiction in general. But as you come back to and watch it again, it's a film that kind of matures along with you. It's got layers, it's got depth, and it's surprising because it works as a straight action movie. It works as a science fiction movie. It works as a movie that's got surprising philosophical depth to it, thanks to the writing and direction that went into it.
It's a fantastic movie.
Brings us on to our
What
first
is
slide
this?
here. Starts off in 2029. Mark travels back in time, finding neither cigarettes nor coffee are available anywhere.
Disaster.
What happened then?
Stop for a toilet break, and then a random pew pew laser takes my head off, and that ends all hope for humanity.
You were supposed to be the chosen one, Mark. We believed in you. Well, you were on the low
Yeah,
ground. You should have been on the high ground, Mark. Should have been on the high ground.
I was supposed to bring balance to the force, and I failed.
You were. Had a cointelity. You were too busy at the arcade mucking about the Simpsons and Turtles and Terminator 2, and the future died and humanity is doomed. Thanks, Mark. Time travelers don't use drugs, as the FBI has warned us many times.
I dang fucked up. Sorry, humanity.
Sorry, humanity. Oh, well.
I've learned my lesson. And that's the beauty of
Yeah.
time travel, because I can just I'll just go back and
Go
repeat
back,
that
start a new
immediately.
loop.
Yeah.
Get a few free credits on old Terminator 2, developed by Midway. They brought us Mortal Kombat and other cool games. And just so you guys know, we're not going to. Well, when I say we, I mean me, because this is the guy who's going to keep crapping on about video games and meat and other nonsense and derail whatever the hell we're talking about. And another show, we're going to talk about like the comics and games and other media and shit based on Robocop and Terminator. But we'll keep this one about the films. But I love this slide so much that I remember this game. I remember it's a real coin muncher. And I'm looking up today the kind of brief history of like CGI and visual effects. You got like Vertigo, 1958, opening credits. You got Westworld, 1973, Gunslinger Robovision. You got Star Wars, Alien, Tron, The Abyss with the water creature was led into the T-1000 liquid thing, Jurassic Park, Terminator, Toy Story, and The Matrix. And I was going to put in a slide in here just summarizing kind of brief history of visual effects. And I went, I just want to see two big cool guns because that's more thematically appropriate. So that's what's in there. But yeah, do you want to read this one, Matt?
Yeah, yeah. So
Bring it up so we can
for
see
those of
it.
you who have not seen the movie or aren't aware of what the
Stop our
situation is.
talk and watch it now.
Yeah, well, that's probably the first point of business because you're missing out big time.
Go and watch.
But Terminator 2 Judgment Day is a science fiction action film released in 1991, directed by James Cameron. The film is a sequel to the 1984 movie The Terminator and is considered a landmark in the sci-fi genre. So, in a post-apocalyptic future, sentient machines called Skynet have taken over the world and are at war with humanity. To prevent the birth of John Connor, the future leader of the human resistance, Skynet sends a highly advanced cyborg assassin called the T-1000, played by Robert Patrick, back in time to kill John Connor as a child. So, in response, John Connor sends a reprogrammed Terminator, which is a cybernetic killing machine, played by Arnold Schwarzenegger, back in time to protect his younger self. And the younger John Connor is played by Edward Furlong. So the Terminator's mission is to ensure John's survival and stop the T-1000 from accomplishing its deadly mission.
I'm not at all confused by these time travel shenanigans and young versions and old visions. So I'll read out the next part here. The film explores themes of artificial intelligence, fate, and the consequences of technology on humanity. It also features groundbreaking visual effects. Thanks to old James Cameron, is always pushing the bar, not like a Peter Jackson and other aficionados of cinema, particularly in the form of the shape-shifting T-1000, which was a revolutionary achievement in CGI at the time. Terminator 2 is known for its iconic action sequences, including the motorcycle chase and the climactic showdown between the two Terminators, which you'll see plenty of images of later. It received critical acclaim for its storytelling, direction, and visual effects and was a massive commercial success. Overall, Terminator 2 Judgment Day is a classic in the science fiction genre, known for its compelling characters, thought-provoking themes, and groundbreaking special effects. It remains a beloved and influential film in the world of cinema.
Oh, yeah. And we kick off. So, for those of you who have watched the 1984 movie, The Terminator, I don't know if you're like me or anything like me. My favorite moments, all my favorite moments in that movie were the parts where you got to see just bits of the future war. So when
Yeah,
you got to see like those hunter killers like rolling over the skulls, or Kyle Reese, like, just doing his thing in the future. But you never got this really, I suppose you never really got to fully see the full picture. Like, I suppose they were on a limited budget. You could only show what they could show. But P2, when the way it kicks off, they show you everything. Like, you are thrown onto the battlefield. You see that iconic moment of the skull being crushed under the foot of the endoskeleton, and it just pulls back to reveal this massive battle in play between the human resistance and the machines. And for the first couple of minutes, maybe it's even under a minute, it all moves by so fast, but you just get to see so much cool stuff. You've got this like army of endoskeletons coming across the battlefield. You've got the hunter killers coming in on the tank form and by air. You've got this cool moment with the human resistance fighters. It's kind of like that bit in the first movie as well, where you've got the truck with the gun on the back and it gets blown up, by the hunter killer. It's such an awesome opening to a movie, and it just feels so big and real, and it's just looks so impressive. It's unbelievable. Like, what did you think about this when you first laid eyes on it?
It's breathtaking, Mark, and it's I'll go a bit robot mechanical analysis, and I'll come back to the general thing. Um, like this scene here alone is a real linchpin of the entire cinema in terms of like what's in the movie and the effects and what's in there. You've got fantastic lighting, these visuals. You've got this amazing combination in this era of miniatures, practical effects, practical explosions, all sorts of model making and craft, computer effects with your little pew pew lasers going off. You've got miniatures, full size stuff for close ups, small stuff for big battle scenes. And something that's really distinct from the first film is, as much as I love the first film and I love stop motion and Harry Horsen, and like you can bet your ass we're going to do a Harry Horsen monster episode down the track sometime. So don't take what I'm saying in context. The first film is really janky with the stop motion when you see the Terminator, when it's a really broken staccato rhythm. You don't see that in the scene. Everything is so goddamn smooth and fluid, and it combines every goddamn trick in the cinema book of 100 years into this minute or two of footage. It's so compelling, and it's just an amazing scene that, as you said, sets you up. There's this big crazy battle going on. They've done it within, they've got an expanded budget, but this is still it's still 90% practical effects with a little bit of CG lasers on top and combining your miniatures and that. And it just does such an amazing thing. But like emotionally, and what else is going on here is we're showing the absolute futility of the vision of Sarah Connor and Kyle Reese from the first film. It's like, oh fuck, this is serious business. The future is really truly fucked. Like we need to do something with the time travel business. We need to do something about it. And like the resistance is just these bunch of hobo looking guys on ramshackle clothing and cobbled together weapons versus these slick, shiny, super sexy fucking Terminators that are just walking out like off the production line. They're all slick and shiny, and they're just like, this is just their job, man, walking out and exterminating humanity. They're just these mindless machines. It's so overwhelming to watch. And of all the films I've never seen in the cinema, this is in my top 10 list. Like, I'd love to watch Enter the Dragon or Doctor No or Terminator 2. There's a few films I'd love to go and see like a retro cinema on the big screen again, but I probably won't. But this is up there, man. Just an amazing scene, like so compelling.
It's so good. It's so good, and it's just so, like I was saying, it's so big and impressive. Even the still you have there of the flying kind of hunter killer drones going over the
Yeah,
battlefield. Like, when you see that for a few moments, your mind isn't like questioning it, like, like you're trying to spot an effect or something
yeah,
that you think be
It's
there. It
blended
looks
so seamlessly.
perfect. Yeah, it's so good. It's so good. And I know when we kind of when we were chatting about Mortal Kombat movie a couple of weeks ago, one of my complaints was
Mortal
that,
Kombat.
you know, from a practical point of view, the Mortal Kombat movie, it looked really good, but when they tried to blend the kind of CGI with the practical
Oh, the
effects, that's
blend was
sometimes
dog
where it
shit.
kind of, yeah, that's where it falls apart. Whereas like with T2, everything is just so seamless. Like it just, like even
Yeah.
the laser blasts that are quite obviously like a CG optical effect, but you don't
Well,
question
you
it.
can
You
do
just
that now in like Canva or Photoshop. You can go and you could make a little laser beam, put on any film. It'll basically look like that. But this is like decades on back then to put that into actual film, like real film, not digital, as you know, it's seamlessly. That's a hell of an achievement.
And also, you've got things like you have miniature explosions and stuff going off, reacting to visual effects. You've got models blowing up. You've got dummies. You've
Yeah.
got actors. Like everything is just being used to create this like massive world building moment. And it just really like it definitely, like I was saying, like in the first movie, you only ever got those few glimpses of the of like the future war
Yeah.
situation, but when you see this, it's just like it blows your mind. It's like, wow, this is some
As
seriously impressive shit I'm looking at right here.
Yeah, and like James Cameron has always throughout his career, he's always been like pushing the technology side of filmmaking, but he grew up as an entirely practical filmmaker, worked on, you know, the old Piranha or Piranha 2, whichever one it was, I forget. But, you know, came up under Roger
Piranha
Corman, all
2, The
practical
Spawning.
effects. Yeah, so yes, came up entirely practical effects. And ironically, because he had so old school and so well versed in practical effects, model making, set building, films, lighting, you name it, he's fucking done it on a film set and will stop a film mid shot or mid whatever and say, stop fucking around. Here's how I want it to be done. Do this because I know it can be done. Um, because of that, he followed the technology trends up through, you know, Abyss, Titanic, his obsession with water, underlife water documentaries, we all know from film for a number of years, maybe also the documentaries. Because of his background in practical effects, that's to me part of what makes this film so fucking great. Is it just he's this mad, passionate person who's like pushing the envelope to get the best of every type of effect, visual, new, old school, all into one film, and to make it actually work, as well as having good writing and a good cast and good themes.
Definitely, I would 100% agree with you there. And you just the whole, yeah, like that transition as well, where you see the adult John
Doo-dum,
Connor's
doom,
face, and
doo-dum.
then there's that, yes, yeah, and immediately it's that classic theme from the first movie, but it's just made a lot more epic. They've kind of recomposed it
It's
and
a dub
remixed it
bass
because it does
remix.
have a, yes, yeah, there's a real kind of grander sense to that classic Terminator theme in this movie. But what an excellent the opening titles are actually themselves an impressive
They
piece
are,
in this movie. You've got that whole burning landscape, you've got the playground on fire, and then the
yeah. You
eventual
got the
reveal of
score
the
and the bass.
endoskeleton. Oh, it's so perfect. It's so perfect. You're probably going to hear me use the word perfect so many times when describing stuff from this movie. It's just it's so
And I'll
good.
be right
It's so
behind you
good.
saying it again.
Yeah, and look, that classic reveal of the endoskeleton through the flames and the close up of
Yeah.
the eyes, just brilliant. Absolutely brilliant.
Yeah. And I can't like when I was doing some of these still shots, saving it, I'm watching a digital version on a computer as opposed to sitting at my DVD or PlayStation where I usually watch movies. I'm doing screen caps. I have the sound muted because it sounds disruptive if I'm doing as many screen caps as I can over several hours, which took me probably 3 to 4 hours to get all the things for this one tonight. Um, but even seeing it with the sound muted, I still hear the sounds in my head because I've watched this movie so many times. I still hear the bits of dialogues like "Come with me if you want to live" and like "doom doom doom doom" and all the "do do do." Like it's so ingrained into your senses, like from watching it over and over again, that you can't help
It's
but hear
burned
it.
into your memory.
There's another memory comes up too. with this opening scene where he goes into this biker bar and he's naked, but we only see him from the waist up, which actually reminds me a lot of old was it Red Heat, where he plays like the Russian KGB agent and he's naked, and but you see more of him naked in that scene in the old what do you call it, like the
Theme
bloody
place.
yeah, thank you, the Steam Place Health Club. It actually reminds me a
The
lot of that,
sauna.
and I don't know if it's a reference, but obviously they were not showing nudity in this film, but it does, just being it's Arnold, he's muscly, we're seeing him from the waist up. I mean, you know, like in the other film you see his ass, or at least his body doubles ass or whatever.
Yeah.
But I love the scene with the bikers, and they think he's human, and they come and but I read the old Mad magazine of Terminator 2, and then the scene here with the biker is like, I want your Bugle Boy jeans. And I actually had Bugle Boy jeans, and it always made me laugh at the scene. And then he just like
What a
annihilates these
moment.
guys.
Oh, dude, he absolutely batters them, and it's just yeah, like you, Johnny. I could watch this with the sound muted, and like every sound effect, every piece of dialogue would just be queuing up in my mind, and like I loved when the guy like stubs out the cigar
The
in his
cigarette on
chest,
his
and you just
chest.
yeah,
You
I
see
just
it,
hear
that
that
mark on his chest.
ooh.
Yeah. And I love when he
It's so
walks out of
funny.
the bar and the guy's like, "Hey!" And then he walks back up and like, and you think he's gonna like shotgun this guy's head off or something, but he reaches in, just casually grabs the shades out and puts them on, and then it plays that old. I th- I'm tell me if I'm wrong. I'm pretty sure it plays like the beats of like George Thorogood's "Bad to the Bone" or something. It's like "Brum, brum,
At
brum,
the
brum,
bone,
brum," when
that's
he
right.
goes to the bike.
Yeah, it's just perfect, and it's
It is
like it's
just
an
he's so
extremely
cool. He's
violent
so
scene
cool.
because you know he really fucks those guys up. Like the guy
Yeah,
he you know the guy the
bends
main
arms
kind of
backwards
biker,
and
yeah, and you know throwing him onto the hot stove, he's like burning his hands and
yeah,
stuff. It's like a really nasty some nasty moments. That he Arnie also kind of gets stabbed and stuff. Like there's some real tense kind of combat going on, but it's a brilliant introduction of Arnold in this movie. And you know, if you hadn't been watching the trailers and stuff like that, which I hadn't, I watched this movie kind of cold after watching the first one,
yeah.
so I wasn't really aware that Arnold, you know, the Terminator in this movie, that the T-800 was going to be the hero. So it's kind of scary
I didn't
still
know
because
either, but
he's
I'd seen the trailer. Mm.
yeah, there you go. But because but like when he's messing up these bikers, like you know, you're kind of still in the mindset of that kind of Terminator from the first movie, who's just this cold,
Yeah,
calculating killer. So you are kind of thinking, wow,
that's playing on
this
the
guy is back.
audience expectation. Yeah, and
And
it
even with
was
the
yeah,
oh no, I was going to say even with the because when the P1000 who like arrives straight after this, they kind of play with you a bit there as well because it's not
yeah,
immediately
because
clear that
he's the
he's like
smaller
a villain.
human-sized guy.
Exactly. He could be like Kyle Reese from the first movie for all you know when you're watching it for the
Mm.
first time.
But yeah, before we move on to the next slide, so the T1000 arrives through the same time portal. He's naked. It's Robert Patrick. He's a skinny looking dude. He looks up in the police. He finds a police car in the police onboard computer. Not unlike Grand Theft Auto San Andreas, you can look up criminals and that and find out where they are on the map. He looks up John Connor. So he must have done some kind of juvenile delinquency to be in the police database in the first place. He goes looking for him. And the other thing I think of just being of the era in this time is that this was a big film on VHS. There was trailers, you know, it would have had movie cinema trailers, but then we had back in the day we used to get trailers on rental VHS that would promote upcoming films, and this was definitely one on there. And I never owned a goddamn laser disc in my life, but I used to see them at the rental store. This was a very popular laser disc thing that sold, and I believe the first versions of any sort of commentaries would have been on the laser disc before DVD existed.
Interesting. Yeah, I did. Cause so could you rent laser discs back in the day where you live?
Yes, we didn't have a player. I've never even seen one myself. I didn't know, but I knew about them in the shop, some of the shops back in Christchurch, New Zealand. But I don't think I've even met anyone that had a bloody laser display. Like, you pretty much had to be middle to upper class to have one, because they were the, I don't know, they were the goddamn Betamax of their day, where they were the better technology, better picture quality, yada yada yada. But if you didn't have a pretty fairly high income, you would not have one or see them. But there were some rental shops around that did used to have them. But I remember them being there, and at some point they went away because the average Joe couldn't afford the machine or to buy them, so they went away again.
Yeah. No, I was just curious because I know I remember them being a thing for a very short period of time. It's one of those things though
Yeah,
I probably wouldn't have even known they existed if it wasn't for like magazines and like
like
catalogs that would
HD
show you like
DVD.
yeah.
But yeah, they were a technologically superior format, not unlike the T1000. But they were here and they were gone thanks to good old American ingenuity, like Arnie punching in the fucking face.
We got a nice introduction to John Connor here as well, the
Yeah,
young punk that
little
he
shit.
is. Oh yeah. My friends sometimes make fun of me a little bit. They say I look like John Connor's buddy in this movie. But
Oh yeah, look at that, the ginger. You got your denim cut off.
yeah, yeah, I should dress up as that guy for Halloween.
Yeah,
Shave
cosplay.
my beard.
Just get a pocket Atari so you can rip off an ATM, and yeah,
Yeah, but they get across to us kind of pretty quickly that John Connor is a problem child. Nice as
yeah.
well in
But
this.
he's a handsome
We get
problem child with a Hollywood haircut.
oh, definitely, definitely, yeah. And you know, of course, we see Jeanette Goldstein is here as well, Vazgaz from Aliens. So we got another James Cameron
Yep.
regular returning
Oh,
here,
I didn't know that was
and
her.
yeah, yeah, it's great.
Is she the stepmother?
But yeah,
Or, I mean, like the
she's the
foster mother? I mean,
stepmother. Yeah, the
oh
foster
no way,
mother. That's
awesome.
right. Yeah. So, of
I'm
course,
only
because he
used to
looks
seeing them
completely
in that
different.
claustrophobic dark lighting. I don't even recognize her in the
Yeah, because
normal lighting.
I suppose in Aliens, her hair is so short and she's wearing a
Yeah,
bandana, whereas
yeah,
in
yeah,
Terminator, she's way more like effeminate looking and like just looks like your
yeah. She's got the
average type
longer
of
hair, but just seeing her in full lighting versus being crammed into some kind of like Batman ducting crawling through.
uh, and of course we got introduced to John's mother, or reintroduced, I should say, to John's mother Sarah in the
Yeah,
is it the Pescadero mental institution, I believe, is where she's
yeah. I don't
incarcerated.
know the name of anything in this film except for Cyberdyne. But yeah, like the mental institution, man, it's just it's so full on showing that the people in this place have been treated like absolute shit. You can see on that image on the left there, the guards just manhandling this lady, kind of like locking her up, like rear. Pretty much, she's doing like a rear lock onto her shoulder, just walking her down the bloody thing, and she's like going, ah. They're getting treated like absolute shit in this place, and it's a film thing. It's taking license with what was going on in real life. I mean, this is set in the 90s, but pretty much your 1950s through, I want to say the 80s, your institutionalized behaviors and practices were fucking awful as far as abuse is going on. Not that abuse is going on now, but the stuff they're showing in this film here is pretty goddamn accurate to real life, what was going on for many decades. And you're seeing the sanitized light version here, but I won't keep going into that. But they do touch on that in this film, showing that Sarah Connor has been locked up. They think she's a fucking nutter talking about this robots from the future and all this stuff. That's no excuse for people coming in and borderline raping you because they're bored on a goddamn break and treating all these females like in an absolutely poor manner. Meanwhile, in the office later on in the scene, spoiler alert, they got footage of the fucking Terminator. They know it's real. They know she's not crazy. She's not making a goddamn thing up, and they're still treating him like dog shit. So it's I think it's quite confronting to see some of these scenes, but it's fairly accurate to a lot of the horrible abuses that have gone on in institutions over the decades.
Yeah, yeah, no, I think that's spot on. And depending on, I'm getting a bit ahead of myself here, but depending on what version of the movie you watch, on some of the extended cuts, the kind of, I suppose, the level of mistreatment that you see on screen kind of changes. I remember when I first saw this movie, you didn't really see a lot of that kind of overtly, like you're witnessing almost like you said, like a sexual assault or something like that,
Yeah.
by the the staff in the facility, because on the original cut I watched, they actually had cut out loads of that stuff. You only really, you got to see her kind of being restrained and a few other little bits and pieces, but I think it must have been like a TV censor or maybe just like an Irish censor
Hmm.
version, because they really cut out loads of that stuff. It wasn't until I got like a proper official VHS later on that you got to see like the full kind of the horrific situation she's kind of finding
Yeah.
herself in, like being
It's full
drugged up
on.
and mistreated.
It's real Jack Nicholson, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest sort of scenes going on, and the different versions, and it all blends together in my head between like theatrical cut, extended, direct, whatever. I've watched them all, deleted scene. It all blends together in my head, but what's in any version. But yeah, like to kind of summarize this, and we see her get. There's a scene where the three guys walk into her private room and just start like smashing her with the police tonfa batons, and they're just smacking around with those, and they pull her onto the ground, and it cuts away from that, but you can tell basically they're about to like gang rape her in that scene. That's pretty fucking confronting. Um, and then, which actually makes it a bit more sort of revenge fantasy in the later scene where she does escape and grabs one of those batons and starts smacking the hell out of some of the guys that have been treating her so badly for so many months. And without
Yeah,
seeing
it's a
that
little bit of
context, it makes it look a
catharticism.
bit more nuts and violent. But she's just going, well, you motherfuckers have been doing this to me for months, if not years. She's getting one moment of revenge, like Charles Bronson style. But yeah,
Yeah,
it's
no,
fairly confronting. And
it's great feeling. It's a great feeling when she actually finally busts,
oh, I
because I'm
fucking
pretty
love
sure
it,
the
man.
kind of,
Because like Sarah Connor and Ripley, they're my goddamn heroes, man. Like I want to see them fuck some shit up.
and that's the thing, we kind of, I suppose, I know we were diving right into the grisly realities presented in the institution, but we forgot to mention this. Like Sarah Connor, when you see her for the first time in this movie, she looks totally different to how she looked in the first movie. Like
Yeah,
she is in shape. Like she is, like that very first shot of her doing the pull-ups, you can see the muscles in her arms. Like she's just a totally different animal to that character you got in the first movie. Like she's really evolved into this kind of trained fighter. You can just see the difference. It's a marked kind of
yeah.
noticeable difference
And
in
she
how
does
that
look
character
ripped,
feels.
and Linda Hamilton looks um, ripped and lean in this film, and it's a real contrast to the first film where she's sort of like this permed, like I'm happy, young, I'm gonna go out on the Saturday night and maybe go clubbing or see a friend, happy-go-lucky character. And in the second film, it's like she's in a fucking institution and she's like tough as hell, and the bits come out will say she's learned a hell of a lot about guns and firearms and preparing for the inevitable horrible future and other shit. But before we get to that, there's a little sequence here where the lighting changes. It's a little bit angelic with the window lighting coming in. She's kind of depressed on the bed. She gets this vision, dream slash memory of Kyle Reese from the first movie, which is kind of like her subconscious giving her a kick in the private, saying, "Quit feeling sorry for yourself. The future's fucking coming. Tough up and deal with it because it's gonna happen." And it's the most romantic scene you're gonna see in this film, but it's from a male director writer, so we've got the nice lighting, but it's not terribly romantic. It's like, here's the memory of the guy that died in the first film, and I'm having the baby of this future savior, John Connor, like Jesus, Mary, Joseph style, and the subconscious imagery is like, you've got to toughen up, which she already has, as we've just talked about. But we get a little moment where this is her little moment to actually remember, like, I'm a goddamn human being. I'm not just this abused person in an institution. This is my little mental escape, remembering this person who actually treated me like a human being. Before we go on to the next scene, And depending on whether it's theatrical or extended, we get a scene of her seeing kids on a playground. She gets a vision of the future of post-apocalyptic nuclear wasteland. And there's a few scenes that dovetail in and out of the film, depending on which version you watch. And they're kind of like the same theme riffing over and over, but they're very definitely dream sequences or visionary sequences, which, you know, people in real life have actual visions and dreams. So it's, you know, it's not just film language. We're dealing in human language here, and like religion, philosophy, these sort of things. And it leads up to old Miles Die Soon, which is how they called him in Mad Magazine. They didn't call him Dyson, they called him Miles Die Soon. Some reason.
Yeah. The man who invented the vacuum cleaner, is that guy? No, I must be
Oh
mistaken.
man, I use so many Dyson vacuum cleaners week to week. I work in aged care, man. Like, yeah, I own a Dyson vacuum cleaner. I actually hadn't thought about it. I've got the stick vacuum now. It's kind of like the
Yeah,
Terminator.
make sure it has
They're
no
gone.
it has Cyberdyne chips in your Dyson vacuum cleaner, you
Yeah,
know. You
I'm
got to be
gonna check for
careful.
those Cyberdyne chips, man.
But yeah, we got introduced to old Miles here, and he is in possession, or at least his company, his lab is in possession of the remains of the Terminator from the first movie, which Sarah Connor had crushed
Remains.
in that machine. So you've got the hand and arm, which is still pretty intact, but also I believe this is where you'll also see the reveal of the chip. They have the
Yeah, the
CPU
chips there too.
processor
I
from the
just
first
couldn't
movie.
squish enough extra seeds in there to get it.
Oh yeah, yeah. But yeah, so that's your it's immediately kind of letting you know that evidence of that machine from the first movie has survived and is in the hands of
Yeah,
Cyberdyne. An interesting little aside here, I will say as well. If you were to watch some of the deleted scenes from the first Terminator movie, the end sequence of that movie where Sarah Connor actually destroys the Terminator, in the original cut, you just see her at the end of the movie being taken out and loaded into an ambulance. But in the deleted scene, there's actually a pull away, and you see that the whole incident has actually taken place inside a Cyberdyne factory. It actually says Cyberdyne Industries
oh, nice.
on the sign. So just an interesting thing to note there, that it was kind of serendipitous, and it's one of those, maybe those temporal paradoxes or something like that, that this
Yeah,
confrontation actually took place within the Cyberdyne facility, and that's how they got their hands on this technology that they would also end up creating in the future. It's like one of those weird temporal loops that you could get,
that's the trivia
go
I'm
a bit
tuning in
crazy
for. I didn't
thinking
know
about.
that. So next time I watch the first one, I'm gonna check that out.
Yeah, and if you have any of the releases, either the Blu-ray or the DVD releases of the first movie, you'll probably find it in the special features. You'll get to see the full uncut scene where
Yeah,
you can see all the
I've got like
Cyberdyne
the metal
signage.
disc DVD of the first one that's got a whole second disc of just extra shit. And I mean, it was 10 years ago I watched it, so I don't remember half the things on it.
Yeah, of course. So we're coming
We'll have to do a
into
time loop and come back to the first film, but it'll be 6 months from now, but you'll see it 10 years in the future.
exactly. But we're about to go to the mall here, Johnny. What's going to happen
Yeah.
in the
Now,
mall?
speaking of chips, I'm interested in whatever chips are inside that arcade machine, man. Like that's my jam. Take me back to that arcade and just give me a break between all those Terminators and killing and time travel. I want to play those fucking arcade games.
Yeah, would you like to take a spin in that burnout or afterburn? Sorry.
Yeah. Yeah, they've got an afterburner full size cab, which I have actually seen one of those back when I was a kid slash teenager. There was a couple of versions of that. There's that's the full on full size one. It's like a big sort of clamshell that you climb inside, and it's got little gyro shit underneath that rocks the whole cab back and forth. They had a cut down version of that, which didn't have a back on it. It was just well, I guess it was basically like a front and a cockpit. You had a screen, but it still had gyros underneath. And I played both versions of that. There was an Outrun one that was a full size. I want to assume it was fiberglass car Ferrari, but it was like a chibi, smaller chunky Ferrari that had hydraulics too. I got to play a few of those like a long time ago at Wizards Arcade New Zealand, where they had all the full arcade cabs and games, and then they'd rotate them on before we get on to other stuff. But yeah, moving on from old bloody Pocket Atari ripping off the ATM, which is some fucking fancy technology back then, because that shit does not work, I can tell you. You're better off just scamming some dollars from real people in real life than trying to do your fucking Pocket Atari and ATM. The T1000 comes in down the old back alley access of the arcade. T800 Arnold has got his pump action shotgun and blasts the hell of Robert Patrick, man. And first he has the box. It's like a box of roses, and he drops it in slow motion, and then the shotgun's inside. I just love that scene so much. And even though the T1000 is like fucking, I don't know, Arnold's like Windows 95, and T1000 comes in here like Windows 2000. He's full of glitches, but he's technically superior and an upgrade. But Arnold just like knocks the fucking 7 shades of shit out of him with a shotgun, and he throws him through a wall, and then Rob Patrick throws him through the glass. And I love this scene so much.
So good. It's so good. And it's once again, it's attention to detail. You feel every hit in this scene, whether it's from the bullets hitting Arnold as T1000 just unloads on him, or even when as you kind of mentioned there, when they're kind of slamming each other into the walls. There's a difference in the type of wall. So there's the brick wall, and then there's kind of like this kind of plywood wall that I suppose just separates like the shops, like the type of thing you would find in an actual shopping mall. But I just love that there's, depending on which hole or which wall that they're hitting off, like if he's going into the brick wall, there's this real kind of solid thud, whereas when they hit off the kind of the thin wall, they actually bust right through it. But everything feels like it's really heavy hitting, and like you can almost
good
feel like
texture, good
Arnold.
sound and foley.
Exactly. Even when Arnold gets put through the window, you get the impression like that's like a half-ton object being chucked through a window. Like he looks and feels like he's really heavy and like just hitting the ground with a big thud. I just love it.
This scene's awesome, and many years later, there's a few cool fan films on YouTube, which they're probably 10 years old now. But for anyone interested, look up RoboCop versus Terminator film or RoboCop versus Terminator fan film, and they edit. Arnold's the same. They edit the Robert Patrick into Terminator, where they're grabbing each other and slamming each other into the wall, and it's pretty fucking cool and worth looking up. Like, I haven't watched it for years, but it'll still be out there if anyone wants to look it up. So
I remember seeing it back in the day. It's a good one.
Yeah, they smack each other into the walls, and it leads into the next scene, which is the old stormwater drains in LA, which are these massive long channels. Anyone's played Grand Theft Auto San Andreas, you've driven a fucking dirt bike or car up these channels. If you've watched Grease and the Chicky Run, you've seen them do their head-on Chicky Run in these channels. They've been in a lot of films. They're quite iconic, and they're a good low budget. Well, this is a massive budget film, but they're a good low budget physical space where you can get in there and put some vehicles or people or things, and you can drive the fuck up there in the warm season away from all the rains and get some really good production value, which they did in this film here with old T1000 commandeers / steals a truck. Looks a bit like old Motor Master and Transformers. Comes smashing through the concrete barricade and just, oh man, but give me a fucking heart on watching this scene every time. Like, comes smashing through there, comes flying down, and you can see if, like, I mean, I was doing this frame by frame today. That's a real fucking truck flying through the air and smashing into the ground. The grill collapses and pieces of it crumple and break. There's no computer shit here, man. This is all practical shit. I mean, look at that cracked window up there. And then they mirror that in the next scene where Arnold is on the Harley. He comes chasing behind him, and he's up on the upper level of the canal, like storm drain. Then he comes flying down in slow motion, which I assume would be a stunt double, because I don't think they're paying Arnold to fly for fucking Harley into an LA storm drain. And he comes down, and the suspension bounces and those sparks. I mean, in real life, you did that to any bike, it's fucking trash. You're not going to keep riding it, so they probably trashed the bike and switched to another one. But goddamn, it's awesome. And then he's driving along, and he's got John Connor on the front here, and the next bit, and he's doing the rear shooting action with the one-handed. He's got the one hand with the shotgun, and I remember on the special features he had to learn how to flip that motherfucker with one hand and get it to actually work, which it doesn't. Guns don't work like that. They're not supposed to work, but he had to practice and get it to work with one hand for the scene, and it's so damn awesome. The whole Harley, the Motormaster smashing through the concrete, the one-handed shotgun, he's blasting the hell out of him, and I just love this scene, man.
It's so good, and it's one of those scenes that from the moment that kind of chase takes place, where John Connor's on his little scrambler and P1000 is chasing him down. Everything from that moment right up until the inevitable kind of truck crash and explosion. If I was ever to, show somebody who hadn't seen this movie like a sequence from this movie, it would probably be all of this stuff, because there's nothing in it you can poke holes in. Everything looks brilliant. Like, even when like you were saying earlier, when that truck goes off the bridge, first of all, crashing through the actual bridge wall and then landing, like you're saying, you can see the grill actually peeling off. You can see all the kind of the buckling damage on it from just hitting the ground. It looks so real because it is real. Like, there's nothing fake about what you're seeing. Even that moment where the Terminator comes off the bike from the height and lands. Like, I think when they shot that, they had like a kind of like a spring rope or something that he was kind of launched off to kind of get the
You'd have to
velocity
have
needed to kind of come
something, because
down.
a Harley or a Suzuki would be completely fucking
Yes,
trash.
yeah,
Like,
I think
my,
they
my
had
dad's in the
something in
60s,
place.
ridden bikes all his life, and like bikes would be fucking trash if you did that.
Yeah, but like, like they found a way to make it happen and make, like, because once again, you don't
Yeah,
question it. Like, obviously, like
it's
obviously
Hollywood
that it.
cheats, like gone in 60 seconds.
Yes, yeah, it's just so well done. It's so well done, and man, like, when I watched this for the first time, I was like 7, I think, when I first watched this movie. I remember it being a real kind of heart in your chest moment, and
Yeah,
really kind of, John Connor, his bike just can't gain the speed needed to outrun that truck, and it is pretty terrifying because you think he's going to
no,
get crushed or run over,
yeah,
right until
it's
he
full
gets
on,
rescued
man.
at the last second, and you see,
Fucking
because you see
Motormaster's gonna come down there and murderize you.
Oh, it's proper scary because you see the bike go under the wheel of the truck as well after he
Yeah,
gets taken off, and it actually crushes. And you once again, that was like a real scrambler bike crushed by a truck. Like, it's brilliant. It's
and when the
absolutely
top of
amazing.
the fucking semi cab comes off, before it gets to the bridge, the top of the cab comes off, and you see Robert Patrick driving along with this fucking convertible truck now with no roof on it. It's like, Jesus, so much damage to it. But he's the
That's
fucking
some
Terminator. So he doesn't care how much he trashes the truck. He's just this goddamn assassin on the mission where he has to take out John Connor. Everything else doesn't matter. So it's full on, man.
it's one of those things as well. I just love it about both the first movie and this movie is when a Terminator needs to, like, accommodate a vehicle, you just pull the guy out of a moving vehicle and
Yeah,
just
just
grab it and just keep going,
GTA style.
You,
Fuck him off, get in there,
yeah,
off you go. Like
focus on the
trucks,
mission.
helicopters, whatever you need, get it done.
But yeah, so we have the escape. John Connor is rescued by I'm just going to refer to him as Arnold for
Yeah,
probably the
yeah.
rest of this because it's easier than saying
Arnold,
the Terminator or the
Arnold
T-100 or whatever.
Faster.
But so he's concerned about his foster parents. So John Connor, he phones home against the advice
Yeah,
of
ET
Arnold,
style.
and it's made apparent to us this John Connor's foster parents are dead, which only Arnold can say and deliver that line with, your foster parents are dead. He says, like,
Have you have
once
you got
that's been worked out.
have you got milk, Mark?
What a moment! What a moment! I actually enjoyed the little test as well because you can hear the dog barking in the background when he phones.
Yeah,
So
like Woofy
so
or
Arnold
Wolfie,
asks him
whatever
what.
they call 'em.
Yeah, and she gets the dog's name wrong, so that's kind of the little test
Yeah,
that you know that
the tip
you're
off.
not actually speaking. But of course, though, once again, first time watching this movie as a kid, that moment when it's kind of revealed that the T1000 is after sticking poor Todd to the fridge. Like it's what a moment because when she's on the phone initially, you hear that kind of punk that she's actually stabbed him, but you don't actually know what's happened until they do the camera
Yeah.
pullback and you see it. It's just
I love that blade arm,
what a
man. If I
marvelous
could morph
reveal.
my arm to a blade arm like that, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, that's serious Baraka shit going on there.
Yeah, some Baraka style. But yeah, but before we move on to the next one, so he stabbed the old foster. He's morphed into the mother, and Vasquez stabbed the foster father through the got milk. And the bottom right image, hard to see there, but that's Robert Patrick. He goes into the house and he's looking for information or any kind of details to start a new trail, like an actual cop chasing up John Connor again, is what he's doing. And that leads into the next scene, which is goes back to the mental asylum. Both Arnold, the T800, and Robert Patrick, the T1000, are converging on the location of this mental asylum. By coincidence, Sarah Connor happens to be breaking out at the same time that they all do their big invasion USA and come in here. Guns are blazing and syringes to necks, and all the shit's hitting the fan.
Oh yeah. And as we mentioned earlier, it's a great feeling to see like Dr. Silverman and some of these other staff
Oh,
members get
fuck
their
him, man.
comeuppance.
Fuck, double
Um
fuck him. He's a
that
prick.
that that creepy dude with the glasses who was like licking her face earlier in the movie, like he gets
Yeah,
a
he's a
baton
piece of
right
shit.
to he gets baton right across the face, like knocks his
He should get
glasses
like a
clean off
Mortal
his face,
Kombat
like yeah.
Kano knife where the sun don't shine. That guy.
Oh, big time, big time. But yeah, it's such a once again we go from a relatively quiet moment of John Connor and
Hmm.
Arnie having their chat in the car park right to this massive kind of breakout scene because you've got so much going on here. You've got
A lot of blue
the T one
lighting.
thousand. Oh, a lot of blue light. You've got the T1000 infiltrating the building and doing that cool effect with the floor, and then doing the eye poke of that guy at the coffee
Yeah,
vending
the old
machine,
spin
which is
longer.
awesome. And you've got the Sarah Connor breakout, like you said, simultaneously going on at the same time that Arnold and John Connor are entering the facility as well, and the whole thing just unfolds into this like a masterful kind of action sequence
Yeah,
where everybody's trying
it's
to
great.
escape, and you've got that great moment where Sarah Connor runs into Arnie and he says Kyle Reese's line from the
Oh,
first
she
movie.
just
You know,
falls down, man. That look on her
it's
face.
perfect.
She's all like superhero enthusiasm. She's like, fuck these fucking male patriarchy. I'm breaking out of here. I'm sick of this shit. And she's made a move. And on that same day, she's running around this corner full sprint and she just starts sliding backwards, barefoot onto the floor. There's this look of absolute fucking horror on her face that Linda Hamilton just nails perfectly. Look of horror in her face. And she falls backwards and scrambles, and her arms are pushing her backwards, like scrambling along. She's like, oh my God, this fucking crazy Terminator thing that I've always known has been real, but these assholes are trying to convince me it's a goddamn fantasy that I'm like mentally ill or something. Here it is again on the day of my goddamn emancipation, and I'm breaking out of this fucking horrible hellhole. He just comes casually walking around the corner, and it's like, oh my God, you just feel for her so bad in this scene. Of all
Yeah,
days,
and
she couldn't
it's
have broken it out
yeah,
yesterday.
bad timing, and I think it's the little things as
Good
well. I think
timing
the
for the
beauty of this
director, but
is
bad timing for her.
like the Terminator or Arnold in this moment, he looks the most like he did in the first movie, which is a nice
Yes,
touch, I
he's
think, because
cool as a cucumber,
she's
man.
yeah, and the way if you remember earlier on, there's a moment where Sarah Connor had been kind of questioned by the authorities, and they're showing her photographs of surveillance footage from the first
Yeah,
film.
showing
So
the photos.
she's looking at pictures of Arnold in a leather jacket and sunglasses, and
Yeah,
then next
and
thing,
they're actual stills from the first film.
yes, yeah, it's brilliant. It's brilliant, and yeah, and just yeah, that expression on her face when she hits the deck, and it's just like, oh no, oh no,
It's like, I'm
because
fucked.
you'd be frozen in your track. Um,
Yeah,
you
she's like a
know,
deer in the headlights.
yeah, because even when it's like John runs out from behind him and he's all like, "Mom, mom," and she's not even like really looking at him. She just keeps looking at the Terminator because she's
There's
like,
no way. There's
what the
no way.
fuck?
Your nervous system and your survival system will be kicking in. And like, this is a goddamn apex predator that I haven't seen for X amount of years. And now somehow I destroy that thing, and an identical duplicate of the son of a bitch was back and walked around the corner on the day I tried to break out from this male fucking arsehole rape prison place. And it's like, of all things that could have gone wrong.
And I'm not armed, so I'm probably
Yeah,
gonna
and I don't
die
have any
any
guns
second.
or nothing.
Yeah. Of course, do we get
But yeah,
this during the escape,
T
like that piece of the T1000 kind of getting through
yeah, Liquid Man.
the cell? Brilliant, brilliant, and the gun getting caught because it's not liquid metal. Nice little touch there.
Yeah, and it leads into they managed to make their escape. John Connor, Sarah Connor, and the new Arnold, who's the new age sensitive guy Terminator, who's not trying to murder everyone because he's shooting people in the knees and protecting John and Sarah. They lead them into the next scene, which is the elevator takes them down to the basement car park. And as it goes into this scene, Arnold's got the shotgun there. He's shooting up into the top. The T1000's on the top of the elevator. And I'll tell you what, man, they absolutely borrowed from the scene for Resident Evil 2. And there's like a cable car scene
Yes.
with the mutated William, and he's doing all these spikes inside to the thing, and you're shooting and trying to dodge him with
Oh yeah,
Leon and
they ripped
Claire.
it off.
They absolutely got it from
They
this
totally
Terminator
ripped
2
it off.
scene. I was just thinking about it again today, and I was like, man, they definitely got it from this.
Some
Leads
moment
into
though, it's
some
really intense.
yeah, leads into some rear driving action with Arnold with his gun driving the car backwards, shooting at the old McSprints-a-lot Patrick with his where he does his blade arms. I love the reverse driving in this, which I assume they'd get a stunt driver in, but god damn, I love some reverse driving practical effects in movies while you're shooting a
They
gun
do it
with
in the
one
first
hand.
movie. I love it.
Yeah,
I love somebody being able to I know in this one he's the passenger, but even in the first movie when Kyle Reese has like
yeah,
got one hand on the steering wheel with the shotgun in the
yeah.
other, like I love that stuff. I absolutely love it. But the
It
you
reminds me of
mentioned
good
there,
like reminds me of like
I
70s action films when they had no unions, no safety laws, and they just got in and drove real cars and did crazy shit, stunts, explosions off cliffs and whatever, and hopefully you lived.
Yeah, they didn't care, like, as long as it looked good. But I just love the
Yeah,
way, T1000 or like, Robert Patrick, the actor, you mentioned him there doing his sprinting. Like the guy is so fast in real life. They had to keep on getting him like to
and it
slow
does the
down so they could get, yeah, he's so, because I think he's like he was just kind of into running and stuff anyway. So he was in really good shape.
yeah.
He could easily catch up with John Connor if he wanted to, there was no issues there.
Oh, you're really fucked now.
And so they
I
go
love it.
to
I
this,
love
it's
his
like a
like
kind of,
how he keeps. I
yeah,
love how he
sorry.
keeps morphing and adapting with his blade arms and other shit he does. Like later on, he does a helicopter business, but he keeps adapting to the scenario and what's going on. He's like a kind of just this merciless military killing machine. I mean, all Terminators are technically, but in the background lore of this film, the T1000 liquid metal Robert Patrick man, he's like a prototype. So he's got a few bugs in him. He's kind of like the new model off the line. So he's not perfect, even though he's superior to Arnold's old T800, who's like the old model that's kind of redundant now. But he's always adapting to whatever's going on in the scenes. And I love how he does those little blanket expressions where you get the close ups with his little slick hair and ears sticking out. And he's like just like completely neutral face, and like he does so well in this film, man.
He's so good. He's a brilliant actor, Robert Patrick. I love as
Yeah,
well. You have captured it perfectly here in the kind of the top middle image. The attention to detail for when a different type of gun blast hits the T-1000 body. So when the
yeah,
shotgun blasts hit, they leave quite big
melty
holes. But
metal.
when Sarah Connor's pistol ones hit, they leave little small holes. And you actually see
Yeah,
once he takes a lot of hits, you can see the different size bullet holes left in him. And it's
yeah,
just a
that's a
really
really
nice little
cool thing.
attention to detail. I love it. I love it. And like this little bit of practical effects here where they go to this closed down gas station and start doing the operation on Arnold.
Bit
What
of
were you telling me
surgery.
earlier about this?
Well,
There's a
well,
little bit of
it's
lore here.
you've got theatrical cut, extended cut, and director's cut, which is technically, I mean, I guess that's three versions, but you're talking about minutia here. You're talking about 2 to 5 minutes of actual fucking footage that's different, plus deleted scenes. But they reckon in the comparison differences, I don't remember all this shit, so I have to sit down and read it and go. I mean, I've watched them all, but like like years apart, with a fucking demented memory. But they reckon that the key distinction here is that when they're opening up his scalp, I mean, she's doing some stitches and basic repairs on his actual physical flesh, but then she opens up his scalp at his request. Here it's got port open, diagnostic. They reboot his system like a computer because he's got some problems going on due to the damage. They reckon that after it reboots, that he's got his programming from John Connor in the future, who sent him back via the time travel at the start of the film to protect John Connor and follow his instructions. That was basically it. If you remember early in the film, John Connor said, "Stop killing people. What are you doing?" So that's why he starts shooting people in the knees and doing non-lethal tactics based on John Connor's instruction. Another little thing here, and it's real fucking minutia that makes no real goddamn difference to the film in the story or to the viewer, but it's in there if you want to look for it, is that the human expressions and the learning mechanism of the Terminator going from being a Skynet roll off the factory goddamn killing machine to being this learning machine, which all the code and the AI is in there if you want it to be, after the reset, he's more like a human being, hence the forced uh, bad smile, which they did for comedy effect in that bottom right. At the very end of the film, later on, when he goes into the molten metal and does a thumbs up, all the human learning stuff he does is what you would call in neural linguistic programming, you call it patterning or modeling, where there's a deficit in the Terminator's understanding of human behavior, where he can't model human behavior without seeing other people making expressions or doing things, as which is what he does from John Connor. He learns stuff from him. And while this talk is about Terminator 2, I'm not going to touch on the sequels other than this goddamn sentence. In some of the later sequels, where there's a version of Arnold slash Terminator where he's about 67 years old, pretending to be human, married to like a South American woman for several decades, that's the end point of this scene where he's been reset. He's modeling human behavior, stuck in the past for several decades, follows on one of those various sequels that we'll pretty much ignore because they're mostly garbage, other than being fun action films. Um, that's what's going on in here. There's quite a bit in it, but it's real nerd minutia that we don't have to give a shit about, and we can move on to the next scene.
And of course, Dyson, I'd love to have one of those giant model ships in my office, that
Yeah, I'll
Dyson
take a model
has.
shit.
But yeah, so Dyson, we get a bit of depth added to the Dyson character. Like we are saying, he's all business. He's all about Cyberdyne. His family are constantly trying to get him to spend time with them, and I think in the scene, his wife's trying to convince him to go to the Raging Waters theme park with the kids. But he can't pull himself away from his work. He's obsessed with cracking this technology and discovering the true potential of this CPU processor that's come into their possession. But moving on from that, we we get to meet some interesting folks because Sarah Connor, John Connor, and Arnold, they're obviously on the run. They're heading for the border to escape the watchful eye of the T-1000, and we're introduced to some of Sarah Connor's former associates who probably had a hand in training her how to handle some weapons because they've definitely got a fair stock of weapons themselves. And I have to say, as a kid, I remember getting pretty excited for that moment when they open up that kind of, they slide the cover off that underground kind of
Underground
bunker
bunker.
full of guns, and you see
Oh
some
yeah,
cool stuff. And they tease you obviously because obviously you get to see him hold the big
chain
Gatling
gun.
gun, the minigun. But there's a few guns you can even see it in the still you have there. Like you've got that classic Rambo machine gun and stuff. There could have been a
Yeah.
few cool guns we could have gotten to see Arnie hold in this movie if things had gone a bit
It-
different. But
But
I love seeing that minigun.
one of the things I like about him holding the minigun is that, unlike in Predator, Jesse Ventura style, who's a human being carrying this massive weight of metal. Forget that it's a gun from it. It's just a lot of fucking metal. The Terminator is made of metal, the machine, and would be able to lift press at least 1, if not 2 tons or more. He can handle that minigun like a fucking handgun. He's strong as hell. So it's completely believable for little nerds that want to think about things like that. But yeah, it
Yeah.
does lead in later on to the other scene. But I was thinking about it today, just the practicalities of like, well, he can actually fucking lift that because he's not human, he's a machine, which is pretty cool.
He could probably handle 2 of them if he wanted to.
He probably could. He probably fucking juggle them if he wanted to.
Because you see those endoskeletons at the beginning of the movie, they're like packing these 2 double like akimbo giant
Yeah,
cannons like that they're firing. Like, I'm
it would
sure they
easily
could
lift and
carry all
press a
sorts.
couple of tons per arm, sort of thing. As long as they didn't fall over. But yeah,
Yeah,
we
but
see Sarah Connor here, and she's like full metal badass in this scene. She's got the little circle sunglasses. She's got a cigarette. She's got a tank top. She's ripped as hell, and she's locked and loaded, man. When she picks up these weapons, it's like putting on an old shoe. You can tell she's gone out. She's done training. She's shot every goddamn weapon in that bunker, and she's not fucking around when it comes to the future.
oh no, she's gearing up to go on a bit of a mission herself because she kind of knows the score now. When they were traveling
Yeah,
to get to this location, she got Arnold to explain to her how the details essentially on how the future happens with the whole Cyberdyne and Miles Dyson connection. So now that seed's been planted in her mind,
yeah.
if Miles Dyson
She's
is
not
removed from
pissing
this
about.
world, maybe the future won't happen if I can just whack this guy.
Yeah, like she knows she's had her brief romantic encounter with Kyle in the first film, which she became pregnant from with her son, like old Jesus Mary Joseph style. She's had her son that she's not seen for a number of years because she's locked away in this goddamn asylum. But she's kept that mental vision, that mental movie of, well, I've seen the Terminator, I've seen the possible future, and I'm gonna goddamn well do something about it. There's been some time between the films where she's done some training and she's kept in physical shape. She's a different person. She's transformed, not unlike the Terminator. She's the new Sarah Connor 2.0 who's ready to like kick ass and take names. And to me, it kind of parallels Ripley in old Aliens, who has to adapt very fast from being a kind of matriarchal character who had a off-screen child in between films you won't really get to see. If you look in the old extended deleted scenes, there was a cat and other stuff in there. But Ripley is a very sympathetic character, and you feel how absolutely fucked up she got by the company she worked for, but had to adapt to tough fucking times. Same deal with Sarah Connor. She's a woman in a man's world of goddamn radiation and nuclear bombs and Terminators and technology and other bullshit, and has to toughen up. And I'm not saying people should do this in real life. It's horrible. It's traumatic. It's fucking disgusting. You should be who you are as a human being and not have to change you are to suit someone else's fucking regime. But for the purpose of the film, she's a goddamn badass, and she becomes like a male action hero of the 80s and 90s, and but still keeping the parts of her that made her unique, the parts of her that made her Sarah Connor.
She's definitely not somebody to be trifled with either. Like as
No
we'll
way.
see now in a little while. Like we already kind of got to see some of her in action when she broke out of the facility, but we're going to see coming up quite shortly. She's quite adept at handling firearms as well.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
It
because like you
surprises
said, she's
you.
a total badass. She's a total badass.
Hmm.
And like we were mentioning earlier, the shape that she's gotten into for this movie, she's in like peak physical condition,
Yeah,
and I would definitely agree with the parallels made between her and the Alan Ripley character in the sense that they go through this transformation. It's actually amazing how similar it is. You've got these two women who are like chain smokers and all of a sudden just want to get a big gun and unleash hell on the world that spited them. You know, it's powerful stuff.
yeah,
But I do love that arc of the character who goes from victim to heroine like in one big
yeah.
arc.
I
You
love
know,
that
they come
too.
full
I
circle.
love seeing any kind of female heroine, whether it's like Sarah Connor or Ripley or Buffy, who goes from like being the kind of innocent, naive ingenue into like the badass ass kicker, but still retaining their femininity and that sort of thing. And I guess it also touches on, and I'll digress into this and get out of it because it's not my expertise. But James Cameron's been married to several different women in his lifetime, and most of them have gone on to be power players, if not genuine ass kickers in their own life in Hollywood and in films and other stuff. So it's definitely a thematic thing in his real life and in films as well. And I was thinking we
That's
might just now go into before we move on to our next slide, go into a little intermission here, a little break, a little pause before the inevitable mass carnage is coming in the final scenes of the film.
we'll be back.
He'll be back. Okay, and we're back. I'm showing off my Terminator shirt. Hopefully not my Terminator. Hopefully not my Terminator gut. You don't need to see that on a skinny lad like me. So we'll bring our show presentation back up here. Old Sarah Connor. We've got some chain gun action. She's hugging up her amigo down south of the border, I assume. And then she's getting up on that chain fence, having a little vision of the future again about the old nuclear bombs going off that kicks off the old Skynet, whatever day they call it, where the machines take over, leading into cyberdyne systems.
Yeah, and the whole assassination attempt on Miles Dyson.
Yeah,
Just what a
she
moment.
does.
She has the it's like an M16 with a suppressor, and she just like unloads into his office, just
Yeah.
blowing the
Well,
actual piss out of his house.
first, it's hard to see, but in that top left one, there's a little red dot in the back of his head. She's about to sniper the hell out of his head. The only reason it's not successful is Miles Dyson's kid drives like an RC monster truck thing through the hallway, and it makes him move at the last second. Otherwise, he would have been dead right at that moment. And that's the only reason he's not dead.
Yeah, very lucky, very good timing for something like that to
Yeah.
happen.
It's like home
This is just
invasion, assassination. Then it leads into, oh, we're sitting down and having coffee now and talking about the future. It's very
it's
comfortable
quite yeah.
transition.
It's quite the transition, and of course we got a nice little bit of body horror here as well when we get Arnold
Yeah,
ripping the
Cronenberg style.
flesh off his own arm. It's really powerful imagery, and you can see the blood just
Yeah,
glistening against the metal as he's kind of demonstrating that he has this robotic appendage. It looks so good, and even when you watch it today, once again, it's one of those things you can't really poke any holes in the effects. It just looks
yeah, they
so
look
good.
great. And it kind of
But
mirrors the
we're
scene where the Terminator walks around the corner in the asylum and Sarah Connor falls back. Miles Dyson has a similar look of horror in his face, where if you look at that framing of his arm, it's an upward tilt of the camera into him, showing he's like this big, strong male physique and this Terminator arm. And he has this look of absolute horror, like, holy shit, that crazy arm thing I've been studying for years back in my work. It's a real goddamn thing, and it's here, and possibly it's going to strangle or kill me in the next 2 seconds. He doesn't know what it's going to do. It might kill him in the next 2 seconds.
It's intense. It's really intense. And then of course you've got the whole yeah, that awkward conversation where it's explained to Dyson that he's essentially the reason for the
By the
downfall of
way, you're
mankind.
the
Yeah.
harbinger of the future, and fuck this all.
You hear that, kids? Your daddy destroyed humanity. How do you feel about him now? Do you still
Yeah,
want him to go to
destroyed
the park with you?
humanity.
Yeah. Like the kids really want him to go to the playground, but you know, the only playground they're going
That
to is going to be like
playground has a
nuked
lot of
because
nuclear
of their
bombs
dad.
going off, so I would not go there today.
So yeah, like once they stop the Dyson assassination attempt and
Yeah.
they have their little sit
Then they become
down
good friends,
and
really.
they become best buddies. They actually become
Best
such good
mates.
friends. They become such good friends that Miles Dyson decides to bring them on a tour of where he works, which is what you
Yeah.
would do for close
That'd
friends.
fuck up the
Um,
workplace. Who
which
who works in an office would not like to go in with explosives and grenades and other shit? Be like, fuck this workplace.
oh man, you'd be living the dream. Absolutely living the dream. I just love as well this whole the whole approach to Cyberdyne when they actually walk in and you see like this bored looking security guy who's like, why
Yeah.
is this guy here at this time of night? Why does he
This is a
have
strange
friends with
time. A
him
note
that
for
they want?
family tour.
Yeah. I do love it. Just the whole the infiltration of Cyberdyne it's pretty easy. You've got two out of shape security guys that just get totally overwhelmed. One of them just goes to the toilet. That's how they slip past him, and the other
Yeah.
guy gets beat up.
I just love that they try to go in, and within like 30 seconds, the guy's like, no, I ain't believing you shit. And then he put a gun to his head. And then
Yeah,
Arthur walks up to where he knows there's a secret room with a grenade launcher and blows a fucking hole in it to go in and see where the secret shit is.
brilliant, absolutely brilliant. And once again, we begin what is an actual flow of action that really doesn't stop possibly till
No.
the end of the movie. Everything that's kind of set in motion here begins a sequence of events that just keeps this really fast pace of action going. So we've got the Skynet building being raided. Arnie, Sarah, John Connor, and Dyson are destroying records and they're planting explosives in preparation of blowing up the building. You've got this
Yeah. They wanted to destroy
masterful.
the arm and the chip so that they
That's
can't,
right.
anyone after that can't rebuild Terminators or the code or the technology or any of it.
Everything. They're gonna shred files. They're gonna burn stuff. Of course, the cops show up because it's a private company, so it's not like your house is getting broken into and they're never going to show up. It's a company, so they're going to show up
Yeah.
straight away, and they're going to send the entire police force. Um, and this just kind of sets in motion. I know everybody loves it. Like I don't know if there's anybody out there who'd have a problem with it, but the actual magnificence
Possibly
of
mental defectors
Arnold.
and brain damaged people, but otherwise,
Like Arnold standing, he pushes the office desk out and smashes the window, and then like goes and just shoots the minigun down onto a sea of
yeah.
police vehicles. Of course, making sure
Minigun,
the
which
whole
is quite a
time.
large gun.
Yeah, it is quite a large. It is quite a large gun. Of course, he still remembers what John Connor told him about not killing anybody, so he manages
Do
to cause complete and utter destruction without wounding or even killing a single person. Hence, we have the human casualties 0.0. So
Yeah,
he
because
stayed
he's a
true to his
computer
word.
on legs, and he can do it. He can explode the cars and shoot around the guys and just make them so they're not dead. But he still shot them in the legs and arms, and they might be crippled for life, but they're not dead.
Yeah, they might be picking glass out of their ears and eyes for the rest of
Yeah,
their lives, but they'll still be
probably
technically
dead.
alive. Yeah. And all those poor SWAT team guys that you've kneecapped and crippled for life, I'm sure
Yeah,
they're really
yeah.
happy that they went to work that
They'll be
day.
happy with their knee cartilage.
Hopefully they won't end up in a similar situation to Sarah Connor and be like committed to institutions where they constantly have to try and prove to the doctors that this actually happened.
But yeah, poor old Miles dies soon. He gets it with Edward Furlong / young John Connor with his little parted fancy Hollywood hair. They get the arm and the chip and they smash it up real good so they can't be recovered or built upon in the future. And Miles dies soon in the next scene. All the SWAT police bust in, and he happens to be standing in the hallway, and they just shoot the hell out of him, and he rag dolls back and forth in a very comical fashion all over the place. But
Oh yeah.
fortunately, he's alive, and he still has the little detonator for those chemical barrels down there in his hand as he's breathing and going in a very dramatic fashion as it leads up to the
It
next
is.
scene.
It's a nice bit of slow motion as we get to see Miles Dyson riddled with bullets
Yeah.
by the SWAT team. And yeah, he does a lot of
I always feel bad
flipping and
for him.
flopping
He's just
and
this guy doing his
turning.
fucking job. All this shit happens
Yeah,
around.
he's almost getting the Murphy from RoboCop treatment. I mean, they just spray him down. He
Yeah,
gets he
poor
gets
old
totally he
platoon.
gets to yeah, yeah, completely wasted. But yeah, a little bit of a tense moment where they have to then bail from the building while Dyson in his dying breath essentially activates the detonator and causes what would turn out to be an actual real explosion because they did actually blow up a real corporate building to
Yeah, it
get
did a
the
lot of
effect of what
practical
we actually get to
explosion
see.
work. Nope.
Yeah, it's really it's hardcore. And like I was saying, this whole everything that kind of happens from the moment they enter the Cyberdyne building, it just keeps this whole tempo and pace
Mhm.
of action going.
It's
Because
like a breath
coming
in
out of
and
this,
out. There's no real pause. It just keeps going and going and going till the end. Some breaths are bigger, some breaths are a little shallow, but the action never stops from here to the end.
it never stops. It never stops. And of course, when all this commotion is going on, the T1000 has been tracking them the whole time,
Yeah,
and
he's in the
he's
background. He's tracking them. He's in bedrooms. He's checking computer police logs and going, "Where's that little Edward Furlong playing fucking arcade games? Where's my 25 cents, you bastard?"
he's gotten so frustrated he decides to drive his motorbike up a flight of stairs and run it into a
He's
helicopter.
probably trying to beat Goro or Shotgun in Mortal Kombat. He's going, "Fuck it, I'll just drive my motorbike out a window." I was trying to beat those stupid bastards.
Yeah. Even the AI of the T1000 can't get past the cheating of
No,
Shao Kahn and Gore.
yeah,
But yeah,
it's
what an
true.
excellent
True.
use of the CGI here because when they do
Yeah,
the practical
CGI,
effect,
stuntman, windows.
yeah, you've got the bike hitting the helicopter, which is obviously a real practical piece of stunt work. But when you get the
Yeah,
actual headbutt through the glass and how the liquid metal form of the T1000 pours into the cockpit, like that's a brilliant use of the technology right there. It's so it's just so disorientating to see that stretched face, with the whole motorcycle cop helmet and everything, and then just liquefying and kind of like blobbing into the seat beside the guy essentially. And of course, he utters the classic Terminator line of "Get out" to the guy who
I love
just
it. I
opens the
love the Get
door.
Out. Love the Get Out.
He just opens the door and just falls out of the helicopter.
And the guy's like, "I think I will get out."
Yeah. I would rather fall to my death than sit beside this liquid metal monster.
Yeah, liquid metal man who's pretending to be a cop jumped his helicopter through a building, head butted the window, melted into here. I think I'll get out. I'll take my chances.
Definitely. And once again, all of this happens in the space of like under a minute. You get to see all this cool stuff.
Yeah,
Everything from
it's
driving the
full of
motorbike up, smashing
oh,
out the window. It's just so fast paced and
and
exciting.
in the old Sarah Connor, T800 Arnold, and old Edward Furlong take off in this like security van, which they kind of drove here in the scene. It's there for a little bit. You don't really notice it. Then awesome if what am I going to say? If that awesome fucking stunt work with that goddamn helicopters flying under that actual fucking bridge there, that's some dangerous shit. Like flying a helicopter under a bridge. If you fuck up, you're dead in that scene. And
That's
the
serious.
helicopter flying
That
up
is
real
serious.
close to the armored car, it smashes, it full on rams into it in between him, like machine gunning them. Sarah Connor's in the back of the van, like firing out guns at them. And the tire blows out in that top right image there. The tire blows out, which causes the armored car to like slash SWAT van to roll and leads into all sorts of more carnage. T1000 commandeers yet another truck. He's done with Motormaster in early scenes. Now he's grabbed another fucking truck. Happens to have liquid nitrogen in it for goddamn plot spoiler reasons. And chases them all the way to the metal foundry. You got Arnold's stunt double there, punching through the window, grabbing the steering wheel and wrenching it to the side with all his body weight, which would be at least a ton as a fucking metal Terminator, and causes the truck to veer to one side rather than smash headlong into the wall of the goddamn building of the metal foundry where they're heading into.
Unreal. It looks so spectacular. And
It
once
does,
again,
man.
it has to be reiterated that the action never stops, because one chase scene stops and another one instantly begins. It's like we both switch
Yeah.
vehicles. Like in our first chase, I'm going to be in the SWAT van and you're in the helicopter, but now we're going to get to the
And
second
he's
leg and
running.
we're going to drive this little truck and you're going to drive a big truck now. It just keeps going and going. And that whole moment of Arnold getting out of the truck, gets the assault rifle. Yeah, like you're saying, he unloads into the cab while T1000 is driving and just pulls that steering wheel over to crash the truck. And it just looks so awesome to get a stuntman to actually do a proper roll when the truck and the
Yeah.
trailer are kind of jackknifing and coming apart. And even just the whole visual effect of the T1000 getting out of the truck while all the liquid nitrogen is kind of pouring out and just covering him. Once again, this is one of those things that's excellent sound effects mixed in with excellent visual effects, because every time he takes a step, you can hear that kind of frozen stickiness in each step he takes, and
Yeah.
you can like hear the ice crackling and essentially his body freezing up. It sounds as brilliant as as it looks. And then,
I love how he moves. He's like a mime with this broken rhythm, and he's
yes, it's
walking
perfect.
forward like he's a Terminator. I'm just going to keep fucking walking forward no matter what. But he looks back in disbelief that his arms and legs are snapping off for this frozen nitrogen because it's not on his programming. He's a Terminator. He just keeps doing whatever the hell he's doing. So he's so surprised when it happens. And Robert Patrick does a great fucking acting in the scene where he does these mind movements because he's not talking. It's all body language when his limbs snap off, and he just makes it so well. And then it leads into, well, you got frozen, but whoops, we're in the metal foundry now. There's a lot of heat, and he starts melting and formulating back into liquid metal slash Dural from old Virtual Fighter, coming back as liquid metal person again.
Yeah, it's and here's the thing, and I kind of even I still remember watching this as a 7-year-old and thinking that after the "Hasta la vista, baby" line and P1000 shattering into a million pieces from the bullet hitting him, I kind of thought that was the end of the movie first time round, and because
Yeah,
it feels like, he's said a one liner, he's ended the bad guy, he's been blown into a
yeah.
million pieces. It felt
He's
like
blowing
for
up.
like about 30 seconds, it felt like the end, but then of course we
Oh,
realize
some
we're in a
steam
steel
bits.
mill. But and of course that just, yeah, they use, once again, the effects used are brilliant. They've kind of got like, it looks like kind of reverse footage of, solids melting and, rejoining, and I think they've like mercury running towards puddles of mercury
Yes,
like joining together to
it
give the
does look
liquid
like
metal kind of
mercury.
effect.
I remember when I was 9 years old. I'm like, sidebar here, people. Nothing to do with the fucking film. We're some real life shit here. When I was 9 years old, we used to do this jump rope for heart, whatever the fuck it was, for charity shit in primary school. And being a skinny little bastard who's underweight, I had some kind of problem with my hip. They put me in the hospital for goddamn a week, nearly 2 weeks, and I was on crutches. And for some reason, me and the bloke was in the bed next to me when I was 9 years old. There was some mercury that come out of, I presume, a thermometer or something, smashed on the floor. We didn't know what the hell it was, and we hadn't watched Terminator 2. It was this liquid shot on the floor. We were touching it with our finger. We're lucky we didn't get chemical poisoning. And somebody
Yeah,
told
you
us
are
after the
lucky.
fact. Somebody told us after the fact, by the way, that was mercury. We're like, did you touch it? And we're like, no, I guess we didn't. We fucking touched mercury, like liquid mercury on the floor. And it looked just like the Terminator and T1000 The Sea, where it was just blobs of metal stuff all over the place.
Yeah, perfectly safe to have in a hospital setting, no doubt.
Perfectly safe. Perfectly safe. Just drink it down like Coca-Cola, man. That's what I say.
Yeah, so we're moving deeper into the end stretch now for
Yeah,
the
old
movie.
Metal
And
Foundry.
no, yeah, and T1000, like he's been reformed, and I suppose at this point you're getting the kind of impression that from the lead character's point of view, I suppose panic's starting to set in a bit, because they've literally thrown everything they've had at the
Yeah,
T1000 at this
everything.
point.
He's coming.
And but
And he keeps
we do
closing the
begin to
distance.
notice always getting closer, always getting, like Michael Myers, even though it appears he's only walking, he
Yeah,
seems to just
yeah,
catch
that's
up with
good,
you
man.
very
Like
quickly.
Mine. He just keeps getting in there.
But and like you mentioned, I think you mentioned briefly earlier, he's starting to glitch a bit. He's when he's
Yeah.
touching
He
surfaces,
starts
it's mimicking the
morphing into
surface.
the whatever he touches, he takes on the texture and shape and kind of clings to it. But he's like glitching out because he's like the new model off the factory line with a few bugs. But he's still far superior to Schwarzenegger's T800 model. So he's kicking an ass despite the glitches.
Yeah, and they have an amazing fight. It's literally
Yeah.
an old fashioned slugfest. Lots of
Yep.
brutal brawling, but
Punching
poor
through his
Arnold,
liquid
he
metal
gets.
head.
Yeah, yeah, that skewer though, it's very reminiscent of the old Clarence Boddicker skewer in RoboCop. He really just gets him
Yeah,
right through the chest and digs it in. We think that
it
he's
is.
actually terminated the Terminator, because we actually see the
Yep.
red eye turn off. Uh, a scary moment. Do you think it's actually coming down to just Sarah and John Connor left now that are going to have
And it,
to,
yeah.
save the
And it
day?
makes you
Which is another
makes
thing,
you think of the
it did happen.
first film
The
with
first
the
movie,
press and he's crawling
exactly,
on the floor.
exactly, took the words right out of
And
my mouth.
he loses an arm like the Arnold Terminator. The Robert Patrick Terminator jams his arm into this big cogwheel and it rips off his arm from the elbow down, and Arnold like pulls away from it so they can move on and keep fighting. But it reminds me of the first film where they kind of like crush him with this big pressing machine and he's crawling along the floor as just the endoskeleton.
Yes, the unstoppable machine. But of course,
Yeah,
yeah, so for a brief moment, we are led to believe he has been terminated, and that the T1000 is going to
yeah, because
essentially
his eye,
win the day.
red eye, turns off.
But his system reboot, he has
It
a,
does.
I think it's an
It says in the
auxiliary. It's like an
diagnostics
auxiliary
backup
chip.
power.
Yeah, it's like yeah, like an auxiliary kind of backup kicks in that
Yeah,
essentially wakes him up again. So he's able to gather himself up, gather his one and final, I suppose, grenade shell. The same machine that he got his arm clogged in, he's going to ride that machine up a level, and he's going to take aim at the T1000, who's right
yeah,
on the edge of that steel
yeah.
pit, after Sarah Connor's kind of
Stay on the
positioned
edge,
there
Robert
with a
Patrick.
few shotgun blasts.
I'll
And
tell
yeah,
you what,
kaboom.
it's a good thing that he switched from grenade shells to tear gas in the previous scene back to grenade shells. You didn't see it
Oh
reload, but
yeah,
Good thing, because if it was tear gas, it wouldn't have done jack shit.
Yeah, if the T-1000 was a G virus monster, we would have been advising him to
Yeah,
switch to acid
yeah.
rains.
Because it was non-lethal instructions from old young John Connor, he was doing the tear gas in the secondary part in the police attack on Cyberdyne. But he's reloaded. He's got his like proper explosive shells again, just like old Resident Evil 2. He went into the pause menu and he's gone, I'm going to switch my ammo, motherfuckers.
Yeah. Yeah, what a kaboom though when he hits that grenade, it blows the
Yeah,
T-1000, like it splits them in this really. It always reminds me of The Thing, like John Carpenter's The Thing. It's the whole
exactly what I was thinking of
upside
today
down
when I
head.
really got. Well,
Yeah, it's just a weird visual, freaky.
totally not a movie we'll be talking about in a month or two from now.
But
But
once
yeah,
again, though, we see
definitely right in the thing.
beautiful CGI at play, beautiful CGI, and even
Yeah,
the drop into the hot steel. You see the T-1000
hot
go through all
steel.
its various forms. Because you get, you see the Jeanette Goldstein, John's foster mother's face. You see
Yeah,
the police cop helmet and stuff. It goes through all the forms it's already taken on
yeah.
before
Turns into
finally
Gerald from Virtua Fighter, the
submitting.
foster parents, and a bunch of Prince and Jimi Hendrix and whatever other faces they
Yeah,
put in.
me, it just does everybody it can think of.
Yeah,
So, and then we get a real bit of emotion now because you think, look,
yeah.
it's all done. Arnold
He's got his
directs,
half torn
young
off arm.
John. Yeah, he tells him to throw the chip and throw the arm, into the steel, and you think, oh well, look, that's all done. We can all live happily ever after. But
It's like, no, there's still
unfortunately, we're
another chip
reminded
in
that
here.
there's still another chip in here, and he does the whole, I know now why you cry, but
It's
it's
not
something I
Mortal
could never
Kombat
do.
10. I've got to go. I can't do no fatalities.
But yeah, so he gets lured slowly into the steel because we learned that a Terminator is programmed that they actually can't suicide themselves. They cannot self-terminate, as he puts it.
Yeah,
So he has to get someone else to do it. But that's pretty funny because you kind of know that like you are being lured to your death, so you kind of are committing suicide because you're letting someone else do
yeah,
it. But
yeah.
let's just ignore you just ignore that. It's a logic loophole in Terminator programming.
Well,
But yeah, it's
just like give him the grenade launcher, Sarah Connor, blow him off, and then he's falling backwards just like the other Terminator. He's got no choice.
yeah, and that would have been good therapy for her as well, because he still looks like the Terminator from the first movie,
Yeah.
so it might feel good for her just to
But
shoot him
it
point
wouldn't
blank
have
with a
been as
grenade launcher.
dramatic. The slow motion lower into the thing. He's melting. The skin's melting off his face. He's burning alive. It's the most human version of the Terminator, this learning machine to this point. And as he floats down into it, he does the little thumbs up, which is a callback to John Connor teaching him the little like hasta la vista, baby. It's like, no, you gotta smile, man, and don't do that. You've got to do this. And like it's the charm of that kid. He's an obnoxious little shit in this film, but I mean he's a decent actor. It would feel like old American History X and other shit. So it's a really fucking emotional, good callback to earlier parts of the film. That this goddamn machine is the most father-like thing this kid's ever experienced, better than his fucking foster parents. There's a duplicate of the thing that was trying to kill his mother back in the 80s.
It's quite the arc to go through.
Yeah.
But of course,
And
when
what's
it's all said and done, we get that kind of, it's like it's footage of a moving road, and you hear like a voiceover from Sarah Connor, kind of, I suppose summarizing what's happened. It definitely gives the viewer the impression that the story has now been told in two films, and there is definitely no need to revisit this story in any shape or form. We definitely don't need to
the
go and
road?
do other movies about Terminators. We definitely don't need it like 5 or 6 other Terminator movies. But
Definitely
that
not.
doesn't happen, unfortunately. It doesn't happen.
But I'll
But look,
tell you what, I'll tell you what
we'll
does
enjoy it
happen.
for what it is. What
Yeah.
happens? What happens?
So we get this like ending where it's Sarah Connor Metal Foundry. it fades out into the scene of just it's almost like stock footage, really. It's like stock footage of a highway and the old median strip just zipping along. And I think the theatrical version is probably still the best version of this film to this date, despite the extended version, director's cut, whatever. Deleted scenes are good on a DVD or a commentary. Theatrical cut still kicks the most ass, but it fades out. This little overlay where it's Sarah Connor, median strip highway, and the future is undetermined, which I think, I mean, fuck all the stupid sequels, and I have watched them all as terrible action movies that are objectively enjoyable as action movies, but terrible fucking Terminator films. They're absolutely fucking awful, and just stop making them. Make something new. I mean, they've got good, cool action stuff, but otherwise bullshit. It's. I think the kind of ambiguous ending, like, well, but the future is not determined. It's what you make of it. That's very James Cameron. It's very Aliens. It's very in tone with the style of this film. But I tell you what, Mark, do you know what the next slide is? You don't, because I haven't shown it to you. But do you know what the next slide is? There's a little clue there on the left. Whoa! But wait, let's do the happy ending.
Of course. Old lady
What happens in
Sarah.
the happy ending, Mark, on the extended versions?
Yeah, like we take actually a moment, because this is one of those things. Because I was never that fond of this particular version, but I want to take a moment to actually admire these still, because I so rarely kind of watch this ending. Look at
Yeah,
that kind of. You've got a
that's
Logan
OCP in the
Run
background, is it
style
not?
futurescape. Yeah, it's like something out of Akira in the background.
Yeah, you see Robocop over there.
Yeah, it's crazy. But yeah, look, it's a different. You get to and it is a happy ending, for want of a better term. It's old lady Sarah. She's sitting in a park watching kids play, possibly even her grandkids. Who knows?
Yeah, the
And
grandkid
yeah,
jumps on the lap.
she's recording this little kind of monologue about you know the future and all that happens. But yeah, look, it's a nice ending, and yeah, it definitely doesn't leave things as open ended as what we
Yeah,
got in the original version.
but to me, like, I mean, I like that it exists. I like you got the extended version, you got director's cut, you got theatrical cut. I let it exist. You got deleted scenes. It's fun to watch all this stuff, but tonally, it feels very off to what we just watched. I mean, you've got
Yeah,
institutionalized rape. You've got killing machines from the goddamn future that are coming back. That's a clone of the machine that tried to kill you a decade ago, but now it's on your side, and the liquid one's coming up. It feels completely off to what we did, everything we just watched, which is fairly fucking bleak and action heavy and horrible. And you've got this like kick-ass feminine hero in a man's world, and it feels off. I'd like this future. I don't want to fucking Terminator's AI taking over and messing up our lives, but it feels very off, like tonally, to what we saw before it. So, like, to me, it's a bit nonsensical, but I mean, I do like, as a film nerd, I like being able to see these scenes and watch them, even if I do feel like I'll gasp down there. It's like, Wayne, I feel sick. Should we like get a refund if we watch this? We watch the silver version of this.
it's weird. It's like
But
aesthetically, it
then,
looks like something. It looks like something out of Star Trek: The Next Generation, going
yeah,
by those
yeah,
stills
it's a bit
that
odd,
you've
a bit
got.
odd. But not getting to the sequels. But Schwig, sexy Terminator. All right, I feel weird.
Oh
Then they
yeah,
gave us sexy Terminator. This was actually um, totally appropriate. This was actually a piece. This is an AI generated art. I did not make this. It came up today when I was putting my slides in my little Canva presentation, and I was making my Ninja Turtles 90s AI art figure images. I got this when I typed in Terminator for stuff people already created. I thought it was kind of just a bit of fun to chuck in at the
yeah.
end there, and that so that was that was the ending. We had a happy ending. We got a sexy Terminator. We roll the credits. We got old Schwarzenegger, Lyndall Hamilton, Edward Furlong, Robert Patrick, a bunch of other people that you don't really need to know about because it's a small cast in this film. One of the things I love about it, some of the guys credited are like cigar biker dude in the first film. It doesn't even have a real character name.
I love it.
So
I love
I
it.
do like that it's a kind of lean and mean, despite being a
Of course,
big budget sequel.
there's Leslie Hamilton, Linda Hamilton's twin sister there at the
Yes,
bottom.
that is the best. That's why I put the still in there, to be honest, just because being a fucking moron that I am, who's watched this movie 10 or 20 times since it came out, I read film credits. I used to sit. I can remember. Okay, I'm not fucking around. I watched Jurassic Park twice in the cinema, and I sat to the entire end of the credits both times, and I basically read everything that's in the credits. But all the times I watched Terminator, other than the first four people or so, I probably never read the credits. I would not, or I would know that Linda Hamilton had a twin sister, which I did not know until a few weeks ago when I was messaging you privately. We're doing kind of background research leading up to this talk topic. I had no fucking idea Linda Hamilton had a twin sister that's in the scene with the T1000, and you assume it's some kind of rare projection or overlay bullshit where he's morphing into her and going, John, come over to me. And that was her fucking twin sister, which I didn't know existed. I'm like, how did. Because I was so lazy and stupid, I never read like more than 5 credits down all the times I watched this film.
I wouldn't have known it either if I hadn't watched some making of featurette
Yeah.
on the whole deal.
Yeah, and I've no doubt watched the same making of featurettes, but like probably a decade ago, and I just don't remember it because I have fairly poor short-term memory, but fairly good long-term memory. But there's all sorts of details you forget when you get into certain topics and Ninja Turtles and Batman and Terminator. It all starts to blend together like a fucking melange in your brain after a number of years, and you have to go and look up the same references as someone who's never heard about it after a certain point just to distinguish because someone's made a thing and someone else has come along and done a kind of redux or fucked it about and messed with your mind memories. But the all-time
Oh,
best
what do
in
we got
here.
here? High
Number
scores.
5, Mark. Mark's got in there. Mark, I'll tell you, Mark had at least 20 fucking dollars and quarters from his parents back in the day to be playing this goddamn machine because it was a quarter muncher as designed by Midway, who made Mortal Kombat. And it was designed so that it would eat away credits. But interestingly, in the old Mortal Kombat documentary, which I watched for a previous episode about Mortal Kombat 1 and 2, you're basically like Arnold shooting in that game and the T1000 is coming after you. But there's a bunch of scenes in that game with the police where you're shooting them. And there was some outcry in America about, oh, there's a game where you're shooting the police and violence and think of the children. You're shooting them in the knees, as the Midway guys pointed out in the documentary. You're shooting them in the knees. But more importantly, number 9, JNY, Johnny, I got in there with 600,000 points. And if you check out the image, why the fuck are you still watching at this point? Because the show is pretty much done. But if you are, top left, that's an AI generated image of the Terminator I created today. And the same bottom right, where it's just a weird head on a console, presumably playing Terminator 2, because I don't know what the hell else it's doing. It's just a head and like kind of retrowave style.
I'm very impressed by some of these AI images you've been sharing. Like that
Yeah.
top one of the
I'm just
Terminator.
impressed by your
Like
score, man.
you could have told me
800,000. You
you could
scabbed
have
money
told me
from
that
your
was
mum,
Dark
your
Horse.
dad, and some guys down the street to get that many quarters play a fucking game, man. It's a difficult game.
You got to do what you got to do, Johnny. Times
Yeah,
are tough.
but it was an awesome game. They also did a few years later, nothing to do with this. They did Alien, the gun or some shit with a big full-on size pulse rifle. It was like ate your quarters like son of a bitch at the cinema, but man, like it shook just like an actual Alien pulse rifle thing when they had it was based around Alien 3, I think. Anyway, last slide of this. Now, anyone take a guess what the hell's going on in this slide here? What could this be
A whole lot
hinting
of
at?
awesomeness.
Whole lot of awesome, but would we talk about this awesome or ignore these topics?
we can't ignore. It's just a matter of getting, getting the schedule in mind to plan it all out, because we got so
WrestleMania,
much stuff
brother.
to chat about. We've so much ground to cover, whether that be in the world of video games, wrestling, movies, toys.
Drop
We
beers.
like a lot of stuff, so we got a lot of stuff to talk about.
Yeah. Kind of rotate. We kind of rotate through the topics each month, so like game thing, film thing, video game. You got to get a bit of variety in there. But otherwise, we'd just do like fucking every. Well, I won't say every 2 minute film. Maybe every Robocop film, and they'll do like every fucking Mortal Kombat and WrestleMania. But it's good to rotate different shit. But next week, what are we doing? Top left, brother. What are we doing when Boba Hicks is gonna run wild on you?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Are we doing a sequel to the greatest wrestling spectacular of all time? Or are we
I think we
doing
might be.
Yeah, yeah. Well, look, I'm down. I'm down,
We
definitely.
might have to go full on sequelitis. WrestleMania 2, Streets of Rage 2, Robocop 2. Get all the sequels. We've done our Mortal Kombat 2, so might as well get our sequels out of the system before we move on to other things.
Oh yeah. And then maybe someday we could do the threequels, the part threes,
Sequels.
or the part fours.
Species
There's so
3, I've
many.
seen you're talking about.
Oh wow. I haven't watched that. I won't go as far as say masterpiece on that one. Definitely not. I do get a good chuckle out of Species 2 and 3 though.
Yeah, I've got some kind of DVD set that's got, I don't know, it's got at least the first four, or I don't remember how the fucking many they made of those bloody films. But I've got like some kind of like $10 DVD that's got movies 1 through 3 or 4 on it, so that'll do me.
I love when you see Michael Madsen on screen in Species, and you can just tell, even though like he's in a scene and he's acting, you can kind of just tell by the expression on his face that he's just there for the money, and he's like counting down the time until he can get to
I,
go home.
it may be a rumor, but I've heard that Samuel L. Jackson or Michael Madsen, if you've got free coffee on set, man, that they will turn up and act the fuck out of your film. Free coffee, they're there.
I can understand that. I'm a fan of the Isle of Coffee myself.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
lots of good stuff coming down the pipeline, folks. So stay tuned. Can't believe we've gotten to 10 episodes already. The Big 10.
kind of awesome. Okay. We're going to wrap up in a minute. So, otherwise, I will crap on for 10 minutes on miscellaneous topics and make people fall asleep rather than actually ending the show. Um, I've been wanting to do like a podcast style show, which we do slides for this. I spent 3 fucking hours today getting those goddamn 2 minute slides, and you can look at them or you can ignore them because it's a talk. It's like a podcast style talk. It's like you're fucking Kevin Smith or I tell him Steve Dave or whatever, like it's about what's the content, what's the thing. I've been wanting to do this kind of thing for years. And there's been a couple of people here and there that have maybe been able to do it with that weren't really up for it. Mark slash Boba Hicks has been the first guy who's gone like, I'll talk to that fucking idiot in Australia about these cool topics from the 80s and 90s. He's the first guy that just went, yes, we'll fucking do that. So, he might go next week. Fuck you, Johnny. I'm sick of your shit. You're annoying cunt. I don't want to
Not
do
at
any more
all.
talks to you.
Not at all.
And I go, that's okay. I wouldn't mind. You're a good guy. But he's the first guy who's turned up and said, yes, I'll do these bloody talks. So I'll do them as long as he wants to do them. But as far as I'm concerned, like I'll prep a fucking show. This is like it's part of my show. It's Mark's show. We do whatever makes sense week to week, and I'm happy to build a show around things Mark wants to do because we've got that many fucking interests and topics and other shit. But it's all about timing and where do you live in the world and what can we actually get fucking done week to week.
That's it. That's it. There's a lot of variables, and obviously, with Johnny
Yeah,
takes the lion's share of the work, so to speak, because he spends so many hours putting these slides together. And
I don't care
I
because
will
I've been
say
doing
one thing.
blogging shit for years, and I do it anyway. So if I can do it and someone turns up, I'm happy.
Obviously, I'm very happy for anybody who takes the time to listen to us have these discussions. But I will say to you, if you do get a chance, you should definitely maybe check out these videos on a big screen if you can, because some of these stills, that Johnny actually captures from the screen grab,
So
they're
those
so high
stolen
quality.
from
And
people who made real films like RoboCop.
no, but they look so good. They look so good, and I have to say,
Yeah, yeah.
oftentimes, and especially recently, we did RoboCop last week, and then doing T2 today. Like, I'm flabbergasted at the kind of high quality imagery, especially 'cause I'm sitting looking at it on a laptop. I
I
can
try
only
and find the
imagine it looks
best
even
source
better.
I can. Yeah.
Well, you do, and you are to be commended on the excellent job you do there.
I take full credits for every visual effect that was ever in any Terminator film. Now pay me some fucking royalties.
Me those Benjamins.
But no, like, we're sitting here, we're nerds, we're adult nerds, and we talk about shit that we've watched now multiple times, from people that are infinitely superior to us creatively in terms of they've created films, they've written films, they've directed shit, they made visual effects. These are people who are hard working and made awesome stuff. So full credit to them. We love sitting back and just like, riffing on it and going, this is some awesome shit, which has entertained us, but also informed some of our influence and style of life and our ethics and made us think and go, I don't really want to fight an E10 9 in a stairwell. I think I'd rather stay home and play some Mortal Kombat.
Yeah, yeah. I can subscribe to that lifestyle. And on the topic of subscribing, I would say to anybody new to the channel and the show, why not think of hitting that subscribe button? That was
50%
a nice.
according to statistics.
Yeah, well, look, that's the network are very pleased with our performance thus far. So
Oh, the network.
I'm
I've
just
been
putting
talking
that
to
out
Eric
there.
Bischoff, and he's going, just go out there, mate. Just go out there and get out there and wrestle.
And let us know, folks. Let us know your memories of T2 or your thoughts on. Do you have a favorite version? Do you have a favorite moment in the movie? Because it is, like I said, and like we were saying about RoboCop the week before, it's one of those movies. Yeah, it's good fun and it's a good action-packed thriller, but also there's a lot of depth and there's just a lot
Surprising that.
in it that you can get into. So if there's anything that you thought we missed or would like to discuss with us, stick it in the comments. I love reading the comments on these videos.
I do like a good comment. We'll finish up there. So, following up from this, we're going to do WrestleMania 2, which is a little Mark choice because he's gone. Oh man, I said it months back. I said, let's do a WrestleMania series. I mean, we'll cover at least WrestleManias 1 to 10 if you want to stick around for the next 12 months easily, as well as other films and games and other bullshit. But yeah, next week, WrestleMania 2. From there, one of the other topics, whatever the fuck we feel like doing week to week, really.
Yeah. We are in control. Do not adjust your set.
We control the horizontal. We control the vertical. Do not adjust your BOBA vision set.
Also available in 4D.
Yes, we're available in 4D. But yeah, we'll finish up there. That's it for the night. Remember, talk things out, avoid apparent meetings, and smile. And maybe keep an open mind and encourage participation.
Oh yeah. See you, folks.